Okay, ladies and gentlemen, apologize. We cut out really quick for the last version of the feed. I didn't have the microphone set up, so we want to make sure that that's working properly. I'm going to copy the thread in here, and we'll get started here just a moment as Richmond has just wrapped up here just shy of 8 o'clock here Pacific time. I know it's going to be another late evening, but I guess the last Saturday night race of the year. So we'll make it count here at Last Car headquarters and talk about everything from this evening and this weekend, quite honestly. Taped. Boop. Okay. Alrighty. Hello, welcome aboard, everyone. So Martin Truex Jr. sweeping the season at Richmond. Reed Sorenson with a last place finish after a brake issue. And a broadcast that left much to be desired, I would have to say. We're going to talk about all of that tonight. We're going to really lean into that. So we'll make sure we get a few more people here into the group here. We're going to do some trivia here later tonight, of course, as we do in our previous episodes. But I got to tell you, first thought that comes to mind is just how long these Richmond races feel here all of a sudden. My goodness, when you have, I swear, it felt like it was already almost over at the 300 lap mark, and then seeing it had that much more distance left. I didn't think that Richmond was turning into the Coke 600 here all of a sudden, but we got there regardless. Not as late as things happen at Darlington, of course, but nothing could be really compared to that. So, well, let's jump into this. There's a whole lot to cover from that, and a whole lot to unpack. And again, congratulations to Truex sweeping the season, coming back from a spin and win. And that brings us to our first topic that we talk about from this broadcast. I know I harp on the broadcast a lot, and I feel like I say that in just about every week of this show here. But what the heck is going on here with the NBC booth? There's a lot of great talent in there. Rick Allen was a great reporter for the Truck Series. You got Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte. I mean, they're great personalities. Jeff Burton and everybody. But why are these broadcasts turning into like reaction videos now? Why is it that there's no time to just stop for a second, not just fill the air with words constantly, and actually reflect on something that happened? Kudos to Rutledge Wood, actually, for when he had his interview on the apron there to bring up the spin and win, because I was surprised that when Truex took the lead, that nobody was addressing that, or that it was just something kind of in the background. I think the lack of presence here in some of these, it's really frustrating, because again, you look back at these old broadcasts. And we did this before when we talked about, of course, Dale Earnhardt's last win being a big thing in the news with them bringing the car out at Talladega in a couple weeks. You think about Dr. Jerry Punch's calling that. And when Senior took the lead, okay, Dale Earnhardt Senior taking the lead at Talladega, that's a big enough thing that's going to get the crowd excited and everything. And that's going to happen anyway. But you have to explain why this particular moment is significant as it is, because especially nowadays when people are saying at the same time in one blush that people don't have like good long-term memory, that they're going to forget something from maybe earlier in a race or something from previous races. The broadcast really needs to inform the audience, how something fits into like a larger context of things. And I really thought it was going to be easier in this broadcast, because you had that spin after the contact from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. that sent Martin Truex Jr. around, and he comes back out there, saves the car. He lost a lot of time. They had to get fresh tires and everything. Caught back up to Kyle Busch and passed him and took the lead and took the win. That's a fantastic story. We haven't really seen something like that actually in the Cup Series in quite a bit, it seems like. We've had a lot of races where somebody just kind of walks away with it there. That's something that really should have been featured and I get the sense that everybody is just constantly filling the air with just talking about just stuff like, oh, well, this is what you have to do at this part of the race. And this is what, this is what happens here. And this is what the tires are doing. It's like, okay, no, stop. Just tell me what's happening. Just tell me what's going on the track and why it matters. And even if it's obvious, even if it's blatantly obvious like that, where Truex spun out earlier in the race and came back and drove up there and took the win, they need to celebrate that. They need to recognize that. They need to get the TV audience excited for that. And I just feel like that there's not an interest in doing that, and I don't get that. Now, I mean, when I was typing it out, I mean, even I was forgetting, how many laps it had been that since Truex spun up to when he got up there and took the lead back again. But that would have been, I mean, if you're in the booth there and you got all these people working for you and churning out stats and stuff like that, that's the kind of information that could make a really good call, and Rick is capable of that. I think that I've been critical certainly of his Cup Series broadcasts because again, they're not as good as his Truck Series broadcast. But I mean, it's there's definitely got a good tone. He's got a good voice, but he needs to be directed better or he needs to prepare for these differently or something there, because that was a big missed opportunity. And again, kudos to Rutledge Wood for bringing up the spin and win, because it almost seemed like, they forgot about that. I mean, when he was doing the victory donuts, they were talking about Spingate, from 2013. And I'm like, well, okay, you could have brought that up maybe in the run to the checkers and say, it's been a checkered past for Martin Truex at Richmond. There's been bad memories from Spingate and good memories from winning in the spring. You could do that, but dude, the spin and win, that's the central part of the story. That's going to be the headline for anybody writing about the race winner is, Martin Truex Jr. overcomes a spin and wins the race at Richmond. That's the story. And, they get the first draft of it. They get the first crack of it there. I'd be curious. I didn't listen to the radio broadcast of it, but I'm sure that they grabbed onto it. And, but you can't just depend on them. Just because the radio is doing it doesn't mean the TV can't do it. I think maybe there's a sense that just because like one group is approaching it one way, that they have to approach it some kind of different way. No, that's fine. You're not going to be listening to both at the same time generally. So I don't know. It's just so irritating. It's so irritating. And it's not, again, it's not a perceived slight against any of the people in the booth. Cause again, they are very talented people and they deserve to be there. They work their way up the ranks and all that, but something is missing, whether it is the production or the direction or just how they prepare for these broadcasts. Something is missing. And I don't know why it is. Now in talking about this on social media there, I was talking a bit about the way that the point system is set up. And, in the past I've talked about like the junior singularity, how back when Dale Jr. was active driving, there would be a singularity that was created where the entire field of cars and drivers out there was perceived as Junior and Friends. It was kind of like that was like the title of the show. If racing was a show at that time, then it would be like, okay, Dale Jr. is the biggest draw. He outsells people in merchandise 10-1. And that's the big thing. And I think, that's been to the detriment of some of these drivers. Again, nothing that Junior did, of course. Junior is one of those down to earth and humble people out there. I mean, Jimmy Means is his favorite driver, but it's one of those things that, that it's definitely was still there. And you have, somebody like Jimmy Johnson that comes around and wins 7 championships, including 5 in a row. And that's not the biggest story, and it's this kind of singularity. And I think the reason I bring that up is that the point system creates another singularity, and that's all with the playoffs and the championship, that each race is only important in as much as it punches somebody's ticket into the playoffs, and each finishing position is only important in as much as it advances the playoff contenders closer to the championship 4. Now, I'm not saying that that's not important. I mean, certainly that's even the old ESPN broadcast, they would use the championship as a framing device to discuss everything that happened during the year. But I think the problem is it's being treated as if it's the only thing that's happening. I'm glad that there were a little bit of moments in even tonight's broadcast where They talked about Corey LaJoy having a good run the 32. They talked about Bubba Wallace having a top 15 going there. I believe Matt DiBenedetto got discussed a bit there too. This is, this is kind of one of those, this is one of those deals there, but it's really, it's bizarre because and again, I know that in the past it wasn't, a perfect time either, that there were resources that weren't available back then. And there were some broadcasts that were better than others, of course, but I still maintain that with much fewer resources, I think it's probably art from adversity. That an old ESPN broadcast or an old TNN broadcast, they didn't have a bunch of graphics to point at or a bunch of people standing around at different parts of the track and pointing at this and pointing at that and doing these little segments along the way. They had to make the call really good because that was what they had. That was central to it. And I think something about that's just been lost. And this is it's not just tonight. I mean, I'm seeing comments in the comments section about some of these other broadcasts. Even not just the NBC crew, even some from the Fox crew as well. I think that's where it points out to something symptomatic of something larger than just the talent in the booth. That it's, again, the points format, and I think the direction that the sport wants to go in towards a playoff format. That just think about it, if they did that in football, where in each game, like, okay, yeah, the standings, for the championship and who's going to make the playoffs in football, of course, is central. But there are so many things that happen in a game, whether it's like certain players' injuries, amazing plays, things like that. And those get featured. And they get talked about and they get referred back from previous games. Like, oh, it's like a replay of this game, or it's like this of that. That's the part that's missing. That's the part that needs to come back in these. And I feel like I'm going round and round on this, but it just grinds me. It just absolutely just grinds at me when I see that, and again, it's easy for me to say here in Last Car headquarters, here in my own house and all that stuff. I'm not saying I could do it any better. If I'm up there and maybe, you see it all that with the screens and everything like that, there's so many things pulling at you with social media and with the cameras and everything like that, that you can't approach it any different way than that. Or, they're trying different things and maybe they're making small steps there, but this was a step backwards though. This was, I mean, and just, yeah, the constant filling of the air all the time and just saying just stuff. Like, I mean, it just got to the point I was kind of tuning it out, to be honest. I don't know if that was your guys' experience or anything, but somebody would, make a little bit of contact, they would just fall all over themselves or something. Like, okay, like, come on. There's other ways you can approach this. You take storylines from previous races, you build them up from one race to the next. We're so late in the season that, you have 25 races or 25, 26 races of storylines that you could have built up to this point. And so if you have a time where there's a lull in the action and there's a green flag run that's going 150 laps or something like that, you have something to talk about. You can kind of go to this driver or go to that driver. And at the end of the day, you have something that you could possibly say about a big portion of the field. And this makes me go back to, like, I think it was Dave Moody that said this, where it's perceived of as charity that you talk about teams that aren't in the playoffs. And I'm like, and I thought that was really strange. It's like charity, like we're giving something that they didn't earn. Like that they're not doing anything. They're just punching in and punching out and nothing's happening back there. So nobody needs to pay any attention. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And this goes back to even, I'm not saying that, again, these stories in the back of the field or in different parts of the field are more important, but they're happening. So if you have all these people and you have all these resources, kind of spread them out a little bit more. And it takes discipline. It takes discipline. I mean, I've been in situations where covering, stuff at the back of the field, I miss a lot of things that happen in the race. So my memory of like what happens from one race to the other is going to be very different from what other people remember from one race to the next. Especially in like stage one and usually the first part of stage two or so. But if you have each of those pieces and you have the people looking in different directions, they're gonna get all those stories. I mean, the thing with Reed Sorenson was a perfect example of that. The fact that everybody in the booth was completely surprised that he was like, oh, well, he must have had some kind of a brake problem. It's like, oh yeah, see the right front tire is on fire. It's like, oh, we must have had some kind of brake problem. The spotter on the Rick Ware team was pointing out that they had problems with Sorenson's brakes right from the start. And I don't know if they were the only ones talking about it, but I mean, they probably could have had other people talking about it too. But if they were seeing it, then somebody in the booth could have been seeing it too. And just you kind of look in different directions. You look for other things that are happening. And this is kind of the approach where they're talking about like, oh, we can only talk about the things that are shown on camera. That's the other thing that gets me. Oh, we can only talk about the things that are on camera. Ridiculous. No. If that was the rule in 1979, we would not have seen the finish of the Daytona 500. We would not have seen Richard Petty take the checkered flag because Ken Squire in the booth had to direct the cameraman to where Petty was on the track. If we took a passive approach to broadcasting like a lot of this stuff is today, rather than an active approach like what Squire did that day, a lot of things would get missed. And that's the other part of it there. So it's really unfortunate. So, again, if there's a very deep well of material to work with here. There's so much stuff that you can talk about. And when you have, three people shoulder to shoulder in the booth, when you have all these pit reporters on pit road, when you have all these other reporters kind of roaming around as well, do you really need all of them to just talk about the race winner or the race leader? Do you really need, or all of them to talk about just the playoff contenders or something like that? You can't spread it a little bit further out, kind of, I mean, it's all about managing workflows. I mean, this happens actually in my work. I actually had something very similar to this just last night, actually, come to think of it. That when for every business, you have resources, you have a certain amount of people, you have a certain amount of money that you have to work with, you have a certain amount of property and equipment that you have to work with, and you have to find a workflow that uses it the most efficient way. And I just don't think that that's happening. Either they're relying on strategies that have worked in the past and aren't making good use of the new technology, or they can't figure out the new technology. I mean, I'd be curious, like, how much of it is like when you're trying to do a broadcast call, are you looking at your phone during the broadcast? Are you doing that? I mean, how many screens are you looking at versus what are you able to see of the track? What are you able to see beyond that? Just use your tools, use everything that you have at your disposal and try to give as much information as possible. And again, I'm not saying that you need to go in there and just talk, constantly and say, ooh, look at this, look at that, look at that. I mean, you pick your battles. I mean, if something, and don't make something out of nothing either. I mean, I'm not saying that either. If there's really nothing going on with something, or you've done a little bit of digging here and there, there's about that, but it's strange. And I know I'm getting this again from a perspective of an outsider, but from what I've seen in some of the stuff behind the scenes there, they do some of these broadcasts and you see like somebody with like a marker board and says, hey, just point out that it's so-and-so's birthday. And it's like, okay. Yeah. I mean, somebody could have just figured that out on, I mean, there's Twitter accounts that do that. That they can get that information well in advance before the broadcast even starts. I mean, I follow a lot of those channels because I like that information, but I mean, I've already got that information well before the race starts. And so is everybody else on there. So when you're doing stuff during the race, get information that's happening during the race. Just focus on that because there's more than enough. I mean, nobody's going to cover everything, but, when you choose to cover one thing, you're choosing to not cover everything else around it. And when you have a disproportionate number of resources focused on one thing or one small body of things, then you are missing a large amount of the picture. And I'm sure probably, people in the broadcast sector or anything will say, oh, well, you just need to go to more races. You just need to go to more races. Well, that's not really possible for a lot of people. Okay. That's not a practical solution. I mean, that's why the TV contracts are what they are. That's why they're worth what they're worth. It's a large schedule. It's a long schedule traveling the entire country, and for a longer period of time than anything else. Even if you're like a beat media reporter, I mean, I still don't know how like Gluck and Claire B. Lang and those people do it. My hat's off to them. I mean, literally, like it's a huge challenge. So to ask that of fans too, I think is kind of missing the point there a bit. Everybody would want to. I mean, shoot, I would love to too, but that's just not practical. So it's really it's really strange. It's really strange, and it just gets to me because they're the gatekeepers. You watch it on TV, and okay, yeah, you can mute it and pull up the PRN broadcast, but that just gets ridiculous too, and you have to like sync it up and all that. No, I believe in just you can't rest on your laurels. I think there's a lot of positives to take from what's available these days and everything, but you can't. I just think that there's some stagnation here, and a unwillingness to perfect things. And I know what that looks like. I've seen that from other things in the past too. So it's really tricky. And I know, and again, I empathize with the people there. I'm seeing these in the comments too, and you're raising good points there. I'm seeing yours in particular, bad booking. Yeah, you're getting yelled at in your ear. There's producers in your ear. There's all this other stuff happening, but all these people are working with distractions. The drivers are working with distractions. We heard that today with Sorenson, where he was telling his spotter to just get off the radio for a bit. Just because you're having all these distractions there doesn't mean that you can't navigate that better, or you can't try to find some kind of way to either minimize them or direct them somewhere else or direct them here. Maybe you just have one person in the booth listen to the producer. Does you need everybody on the same page with that, or you just need one person? Just try things out. Again, I see this at work where we try to come up with a new workflow, and you try to find a way that actually works. You give it a period of time to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then you scrap it and you go back and you try something else. But you keep trying. If there's progress, and there's definitely other things that they're trying, that's good enough for me. But I want it to go forward. Okay. I know that NBC in the past did a little bit of this, because they did the thing where Rick Allen was on pit road at New Hampshire, and they had them wear like vintage t-shirts and stuff like that. Okay. So they're trying little things there. But I think it's something, it's either smaller details that maybe they're not as cognizant of, or it's bigger things that they need to get more people involved in besides just the people in the booth. But one way or the other, I think that there needs to be a better focus on just figuring that out. And I think the more people that express these concerns, and the more people that, kind of work towards solutions. Now, I mean, I'm not looking to just complain just randomly or anything like that. I want it to be better, and I want it to be where it needs to be. I want each one to be better than the past one. And I think they do too. But I think the way they're going about it isn't the right way, because we're a ways into the season now, and that one was just really off. And you can have an off day, but this is getting more typical broadcast like this. And I mean, it's always kind of the thing like that. So yeah. And no, yeah, I mean, I'm with you too, Ben, on the t-shirts and all that. I mean, it's when you're in the booth, yeah, you have the professional look, you have the classic, wide world of sports thing and all that. Yeah, you're up there, and you look the part and you do the work and all that. Yeah, I think they were just. What I took more from that was that they sensed that there was something that wasn't quite jiving right, and they wanted to try something different. And that wasn't the direction. That the issue was never what they were wearing. That much is clear. And when they tried to put Rick Allen on pit road, I felt really bad for him in that one, quite honestly, because he just looked at a complete loss when he was down there, and he was trying. God bless him, he was trying. He was really trying, but you can tell. I mean, there's some people that are just uniquely skilled at being really good at being pit reporters. And as I've said in the past, they're actually the part of the whole broadcast team that I have the least problem with, because to me, for one thing, they're like ageless to me. That's why it was so shocking when we lost Steve Burns, and when Dr. Dick Bergen retired and things like that. It just seemed like they've always been there, and they're always going to be there. Dave Burns, so many of these others, Matt Yoakum, some of these other ones there, Yeah, Dr. Jerry Punch, exactly. So, John Kernan, too many to name. I mean, just and there's some broadcasters that got their start, working in on pit road. Bill Weber was really good on pit road. Mike Joy, before he did his work with Fox, he used to do the pit road for CBS. There's maybe that's the rite of passage. Maybe that's why their body of work there is so strong, is that's kind of the way you kind of earn your way up the ranks and stuff. And then you see somebody like Dave Burns do a broadcast, or Dr. Jerry Punch, or some of these other ones there. Yeah, Vince Welch, that's another example. Yeah, he's really good on pit road. I got zero problem with him there. And again, I think what's really good too about the pit reporters, and you see them when they work, when you're kind of on pit road, they got there's the person there, and then they have a camera person, they have like an audio person or somebody there with them. And they got their game face on. They are getting the work done. I mean, again, hats off to them as well. Literally. Every time we hear somebody say hats off, I'm only surprised they don't tip their hat like that. Ricky Rudd did that all the time back in his day. We'll talk about Rudd a bit more when we do our trivia segment here. But oh gosh, I've been ranting about this for 20 minutes. Okay. Oh gosh, almost 30 minutes. But again, a lot to unpack on that. But yeah, there needs to be some kind of reorganization there, and I don't know if it's a matter of bringing in some new blood, or bringing in or moving people around, or trying people in different spots or something like that. But as long as, I mean, for all I know, maybe it is happening, but I'm just not seeing it. And broadcasts like this are what really get under my skin on that, because so much more could have been made of the spin and win, especially in a race where not a whole lot was happening. I mean, you think about Dale Jarrett winning his first race over Davey Allison back in 1991. That was a race where not much happened in the entire race. So that's why when you see just about any version of that race that's like a rebroadcast, it's cut down to like less than 2 hours, because for one thing, like not a whole lot of cautions happen, not a lot of things visually at least seem to happen in the race, but everybody remembers that finish, and so everybody talks about it, and that's how it gets remembered. But yeah, like it's and again, I don't mean to pick too much on NBC, but I mean they're the ones in charge of it now, and this is the frontline example there. I just get the sense that they're taking a passive approach rather than an active approach to the broadcast, and that needs to change. I think when you start, I'm a big fan of a broad objective rather than just, okay, I'm going to focus on fixing this small thing and this small thing and this small thing. It's like, okay, let's look at the broad thing that's going to infiltrate all this and fix all those small things. And I think that's the big part, is taking an active approach, which is again why I think the pit reporters do a great job. They have to know which pit stall they have to go to. They have to know which teams are in their area are like the big ones to talk about, or how the race's complexion is changing, so they know where to follow. Because I mean, in between, when they're about to interview these pit reporters, they're watching the race, and that's why again the broadcast is so important, because it informs what they see too, and what they see on camera also. So if there's an improvement from that, they could even do even better than they already are doing now. So it's a tide that really lifts all boats, and that's that's the actual kind of thing to work with on that. Yeah, and actually, yeah, and you mentioned that too, Ben, with the Junior's discussion there about the radio style broadcast. I know in that one, there was that one episode of the download where he said that it was going to work a lot better at Watkins Glen than it would at Indianapolis, because at Indianapolis each lap kind of looks the same, that everybody's more or less single file by the time they got to his particular post. Whereas at Watkins Glen, he was in turn 5, and you could see, so much stuff could happen in the inner loop, and going in through that corner and coming down the backstretch and stuff. A lot of key breaking points and everything, and you could pick out things along the way. And again, that's great feedback, and that's something else that they can kind of. It also informs like how they're looking at the racing itself from broadcast standpoint. And there's a lot that could be learned from that. But yeah, and the Pocono broadcast and all the I mean all this hyperbole when what was it? I'm trying to remember who crashed in turn 1, And there was all this screaming and stuff. It's like, oh, he clobbers the wall, he destroys the car, and it's like, and he just kind of glanced off it, and it's like, okay, like, look, calm down. I know it happened right in front of you, and it's very exciting, but you know, I don't know, but I do, yeah, I like the road course broadcast where, yeah, you're able to, have people in those particular corners, but I mean, it doesn't really work on the other ones. But I see some of these shots from where the guys in the booth are. They do a shot behind, I think it was the Fox group, where it's a huge room, but they're just standing in one really small part of it. And there's a wall of screens in front of them. It's like a Buffalo Wild Wings. You got a bunch of these screens showing different angles, like this one and this one and this one. And you can't see the track because the screens are up so high. They're up higher than, because they're all standing there, of course. They're standing shoulder to shoulder with this bank of TVs and these other windows and nobody else in the room. Because of course, it's live TV and they're the ones with the microphones and everything. But you miss so much when you can't see the track. I mean, this is where, and that could happen on the print media side too, because when for example, some media centers give you an even better view of the track than others. At Sonoma in particular, you get a perfect view of turn 11, which is kind of strange because there's not really any seats that see turn 11 really well. But the media center gives a perfect view of it. And so if anything happens in there, you'll see it like right away. I guess there's some in the main grandstands you can see a little bit from there, but I mean, it's I always thought it would be great if they put stands right on the outside of turn 11, kind of like the hairpin at Montreal, where you have a large section of crowd that's revolving around that turn, because that's like the iconic turn of the track. Not to go too far down that road, but again, kind of the fan arrangements is there's some crossover there with between that and the broadcast positioning and everything. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, yeah, I mean, Fox is going to be doing some different things here. I mean, now that Darrell Waltrip, is retired from the booth, and I'm not even sure they're going to bring in a third person. I think that they might probably just stick with Mike and Jeff, and maybe rely a bit more on their pit reporters. Maybe cycle somebody different in and try some different things from there. I'm not sure, again, how all that works. I mean, heck, I'd be okay even seeing Larry McReynolds or Jeff Hammond getting back in there again. I think that would be fine. I'm still waiting for Brad Daugherty to get another stab at it, because I thought he was great with ESPN. But yeah, I don't know. But so we're starting off with that. So we're front loading this about the broadcast as we wait again for the inspection results. Again, unofficially, Martin Truex Jr., your winner, and Reed Sorenson, your last place finisher. Brake issues central in the race. Again, another storyline that was missed completely by the broadcast. I'm not expecting them to know what's going on mechanically with every single car out there, like all 38 of them. But if it weren't so transparent that they were only looking at the playoff contenders and perhaps only like the top 3 of those playoff contenders. So like when Ryan Newman suddenly was in the top 5, everybody's like, oh my gosh, where'd he come from? Yeah, he qualified well, he practiced well, and he raced well. So that's kind of an ongoing story. That's kind of that whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. But so anyway, well, let's get into the meat of the race here. From that, let's see. Okay, the race results have been refreshed with the reasons out. Does list brake issues as being the reason that Ross Chastain was out of the race. Yes, and actually that raises another important point that I wanted to kind of talk about from this too. One thing I thought was very interesting, and certainly as a continuation from what happened last week in Las Vegas, because I know that the Garrett Smithley, Kyle Busch thing, that seemed to be hitting more of the Twitter beat after we finished the disqualification show last week. So we didn't really talk about that too much. You could probably guess where my side of the argument is on that, hey, these guys, they deserve to be out there just as much as anybody else. They're looking to get the very best run that they can. And Kyle, and I put on Twitter there, and I was surprised it got as much attention as it did. But look, you get a ride, you get your license, or you get your license, you get a ride, you get a sponsor, you practice, you qualify, you start your car, you follow all the rules, including maintaining minimum speed, you belong out there. You if you do all that, you're the same as anybody else out there, and you got a chance to just do the very best you can. And okay, yeah, not everybody's going for the win. That's always been the case in the sport. I mean, heck, the way the complexion of the sport now is actually very similar to the way it was back in the even further back glory days in like the 1970s, where 5 people would have a chance at winning every week, and everybody else was just everybody else. It's again the whole Garrett Smithley thing was blown way out of proportion. I mean, you would have thought that you would have thought that he came up and wrecked Kyle, like what happened with Stenhouse, which itself was like what Stenhouse did with Truex tonight, which was itself a racing deal. I mean, I guess racing deals just don't exist anymore. Like, when you're leading, or when you're one of the chosen ones, when you're one of not just the chartered teams, but when you're one of the top guys, when you drive for Gibbs, when you drive for one of those teams, when you're expected you just get out of the way. You get on your knees and you bow and scrape at these guys as they go by. No, that's not racing. Everybody out there, if you're running second or if you're running 32nd, you are racing for something. Okay. Otherwise you wouldn't be out there. And you know what? And guess what? You reap what you sow on this one, folks. If people didn't want start and park teams, okay, great. Now you have chartered teams. Now you can buy your way in. I thought people didn't like pay drivers, but hey, now you have pay teams. And then, one of them wins at Daytona. And suddenly, that's a problem. We don't like that. Well, okay. So now you got other teams out there that are trying to fill out the field. We don't have enough cars for 40 cars. So Rick Ware wants to field 4 cars. Well, he can do that if he wants. I mean, if you don't like Rick Ware having 4 cars in the field, well, how about somebody else enter a car and bump him out of the field? I mean, that's the way it used to happen. I think David Land was pointing this out in terms of the gap between first and last in the field the time difference is a lot larger these days. Well, of course it is. There's nobody there to challenge anybody further in the back to compete at a higher level. In 2009, when you had a really tight field, that was because 8 drivers didn't qualify for the race and nobody knew who they were going to start in the race. And of course, even then you still had the top 35 rule, which nowadays, I mean, compared to the charter system, at least that one wasn't a pay barrier. At least you could bump your way in or out of it. And you had 5 races to do that at the beginning of the year. There was a way into it. Now it's like it's pay to play with that. But yeah, you get your car out there, you start the race. I mean, you deserve to be there. And I don't get the controversy with all this. And I've talked with Garrett. I put the interview up on the website after that all broke. I mean, I was sitting on that in case he was a feature for a later article. But it seemed like that was a good time to bring it up there as any. Yeah, he's a good kid, and he's working with Victory Lane Quick Oil Change and putting together these different sponsors out there to get him out there. Joey Gase, who is very much the feature in that whole controversy as well. I mean, he's a good kid trying to work his way up there. And yeah, they don't run cars that are as fast as anybody else. I mean, for those of you following the website a long time, that probably better than anybody out there. Guys like Gase and Smithley and stuff, they're trying to just get the best run that they can and whatever the car is going to give them. And you get laps, you get experience, and you get that experience in Cup. That's what gets you up there. I won't spoil too much of blink of an eye here, but that was kind of one thing that was talked about with Michael Waltrip in his earlier part of the career in the Cup Series before he went to DEI, is how important it is to get laps in Cup, regardless of what equipment you can get. And you think back to Michael driving for Bahari Racing or some other teams like that, and it certainly makes sense. And look at and then look what Michael became. He ended up winning 2 Daytona 500s. He owned a team. Unfortunately, the team's not around anymore. But hey, I mean that's huge. And who's to say that somebody like Joey Gase or Garrett Smithley is not going to have something like that happen later in his career? We see already with Matt DiBenedetto and how much has turned around for him in just the last 2 years alone. Now the guy's going to be driving for the Wood brothers, and he's going to come back to Daytona where he almost won last year for Levine Family Racing. He's going to drive the 21 car at Daytona. I mean, my gosh, he's going to be a favorite already. He's going to be tough. If you thought he was tough this year, just wait until he drives the car that Paul Menard should have won the Busch Clash with this year. And kudos again to Paul Menard for working that out with him. That was huge there for him. But I'm going a long way around on this. The reason I'm bringing all this up again, and not just because it was from last week, is Ross Chastain's radio conversations during this race. There seemed to be an impression, at least from a lot of the communications between the driver and the team, that they were getting pressure to park the number 15 car. Because now I don't know if it was pressure just from the team itself, that they had to save up tires and make sure they had enough for both 27 and maybe even the 77 as well until they fell out, because there's a partnership, of course, between Premium and Spire Motorsports. But the spotter kept saying this over and over again, saying like, "Oh, I don't think they want us out here during this playoff race running 38 laps down." And I'm like, well, that's a strange thing to say. Like, I mean, okay, you don't think that they want you out there. But I was watching his lap speeds, and he was faster than just about. I mean, I pointed this out at one point. He was faster than Chastain was faster than anybody up to 25th place out there. So you're telling me anybody from 26th on back shouldn't be out there? And they were all running. And other than Chastain, everybody in that group was running within 7 laps of the leader. And it wasn't too long ago that second place would be like 2 laps down. I mean, actually, even further back. I paint in broad strokes there, but yeah, I got the impression from that they were getting some pressure, and I wasn't listening to the official broadcast so much. Maybe this was getting communicated elsewhere. I'd be interested to hear if there's anything more on this. But Chastain was 38 laps down after the brake issue that put him behind the wall for several laps, and he took last place for pretty much the entire middle stage of the race. But he came back out there and he didn't lose another lap. And in fact, he was passing cars on the inside line because, again, he was faster than a large part of that field, and not just the cars that were at the back of the field, but also passing cars that were a bit ahead of them there in that group. That were up maybe closer to being 1 or 2 laps down. But still, there was this communication. It's like, okay, well, yeah, they probably don't want us out there. Now, it could be one of two things. Either A, it was the same situation that happened to Reed Sorenson, where he had a brake issue, and then they were just worried about the brakes failing and putting him into the wall and taking him out of the race. Now, if that were the case, that's one thing very different. You certainly don't want to be a hazard. You don't want to get, run over or anything like that. But that wasn't the case with Chastain, because again, that wouldn't explain the difference in speed, even with tire fall off and everything. I mean, they were on a different pit strategy, but he was consistently running these good laps. And also the fact that he didn't lose another lap until very late in the race, when he lost the 39th lap there. And then shortly after that is when he pulled off the track, when he couldn't get any more ground to close up on the 27 of Quinn Huff. But a different situation there for Chastain. But yeah, and it made me concerned a bit that maybe there's getting some pressure to some of these teams now. Very reminiscent to the field filler controversy back in 2004. You think back to those of you that followed the sport even longer, you may remember in 2004, there were a lot of start and park teams the first part of the year because they didn't have enough cars to fill the field. There were requirements. There were 43 cars, so you had a lot of teams that came out there with cars that weren't quite ready for prime time. One of them was driven by Andy Hillenberg, who was going to start later in the year, ended up having to advance his plans and start at Rockingham. He ended up buying Rockingham years later when he was hosting the ARCA races out there. But the big controversy came to a head at Darlington that spring, where Hillenberg got spun out by Tony Stewart when he was getting lapped. He was driving a car for Stan Hover, a long-time single car team owner in the sport that had been out of the sport for almost a decade at that point. And Hillenberg spun out, and Jeff Gordon was closing at the time there. Gordon couldn't avoid him because it was Darlington, and collided, and Gordon was not severely injured in that one, but I'm sure that didn't do his back any favors, the back injury that he later had to deal with about 5 years after that. Hillenberg was contrite after that, where he was like saying, look, the worst thing you want as one of these guys back here is to take out one of the sports heroes. And, I apologize to all the Jeff Gordon fans out there. And that was a very stand-up thing to do. He was clearly embarrassed. He was clearly, frustrated as well. But it's that's kind of, they had a right to be out there. They had a right to be out there because that was the situation that NASCAR was dealing with at the time. They needed to fill the fields, And JD McDuffie and other drivers, but well before him, were called upon for the same deal. But it just so happened that in this situation, a wreck happened. It took out one of the leaders. Well, again, no quarter for the people up front. That could just as easily happen with a fully funded team. That could just as easily happen to a car that's running 20th place. It could happen to anybody out there. That unpredictability is why people watch racing. At least I would think it's one thing that makes people watch it. It's certainly one reason I watch it. I mean, if I had a Back to the Future almanac that told me about the finishing order of every race for like the rest of my life, I'd probably stop watching it because it'd be like, well, okay, that's kind of boring. I mean, I don't, okay, now I know everything that happens in all these. I mean, I don't have any reason to watch it. So, that's kind of the way it all plays out. But I thought that was interesting though. I thought that was interesting and a bit um again, I don't know how much of it is the deal with premium motorsports because of course they are running on a shoestring. They usually don't have a lot of sponsorship there. They're stretching resources between 27 to 77, much like what Rick Ware has been doing there with the 4 cars he's been fielding, or 3 of them this week. But just trying to make it work, and doing the best they can and gaining as many positions as they can. But to think that NASCAR doesn't want you out there, even though you have a fast car, just because you're laps down. I mean, you're not in the way. You're not. It's not even like the Hillenberg situation where he's running off the pace and getting run over by a lead lap car or anything like that. He's actually up to pace, if not comparable speed. There was that one time where he was among the top 12 fastest cars in the field, with the tire drop off being what it was. Now I don't know if that's a result of the aero package or whatever, but everybody's working under the same rules. So, again, I thought that was a disappointing thing to hear. And I hope that it's not something symptomatic of what's going on at the back of the field. I'm hoping that maybe it's just a short-term overreaction to what happened with Garrett Smithley. Maybe some of these teams are concerned that they don't want to get any negative press from it. Although I would think, I mean, for Rick Ware's team, I mean, they get all these sponsors. I mean, they're kind of like Starcom that way. And they had like this week as well. The Berna paint scheme on the 52 car for Yaley looked really cool. All these different sponsors coming on board. I mentioned Starcom because Starcom actually has like a great promotional deal for these different sponsors coming on board. They actually printed on the back of their hero cards. So even fans that are coming in there that maybe are, private business owners, they can jump on and do it. And they've run like a new paint scheme every week. Yeah, I mean, they're able to get this backing. And the reason I bring this up is that I think when that accident happened, the Honest Abe Roofing Company was probably seeing a boost in sales because suddenly everybody's playing that same clip of Kyle Busch's car running in the back of them. And everybody's like, well, what is that 52 car? Now it's getting a whole lot of attention. That branding on the side of the car there that ran at Indy and then again at Vegas. I mean, again, that could always help. I'd be very interested to hear from the folks at the Honest Abe Company if they've seen any difference in sales since then. Very similar to the diecast sales of Matt DiBenedetto's car at Canada not long after he came up short at Bristol. So a very interesting deal there. But yeah, I mean, Ross Chastain, he did eventually come back out there. He just passed Reed Sorenson about 30 laps before he pulled off the track. And those are the only 2 people that fell out of the race. Everybody else in the top 36 finished the race under power. The last of those, Quinn's car there being 16 laps down at the finish. Spencer Boyd, Yaley, and Terrio in the next 3. Rick Ware Racing cars, all of them within just a couple laps of each other in the next few spots. And that more than rounds out the bottom 5 from there. Actually, it's like the bottom 6 in that group. But I think that's pretty well-traveled ground at this point. Let's see. And you mentioned Ron Hornaday driving in place of Steve Park. That's actually a really good interview. Hornaday's appearance on the Dale Jr. download is really good because he actually talks about that driving for Steve Park that time. That's definitely an interview you want to check out. And also in my continued, let's see, I always bring up the Scene Vault podcast. Seems like on each one of these, but I think I talked about the Bobby Hillin one last week. That was really good too. So if you're looking for things on a long drive, you could certainly do worse than getting those 2 because those 2 are really good. Um, let's see. Let me go back to the Xfinity race here, and we'll cover that as well. Mike Marlar being your last place finisher from that one. And again, going back to the broadcast again, no replays that I saw, at least. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I didn't see any replays of the number 66 hitting the wall in the first lap of the race. Yeah, it's only the first lap of the race. No reason to look at anywhere in the field when something happens. I guess it just, on what, the third smallest track that the series runs on. Yeah, I guess that's really easy to miss. Um, yeah, Mike Marlar's car eliminated the first lap of the race. An unfortunate deal for Motorsports Business Management, Carl Long's team. It also happened on Long's birthday, which is unfortunate. But I was, the Twitter account there did post that they were getting the car fixed up. They should have it going here again. So I'm glad that the repairs are apparently not as significant as it first seemed, at least in the wreck there. Stan Mullis next to last. Landon Castle with another outstanding qualifying run for Morgan Shepherd's team. Qualified the 17th spot. Ends up out of the race after 24 laps with handling issues. Vinnie Miller and Brandon Brown rounding out the bottom five there. Tyler Matthews just on the outside of it after he shortened up Mike Harmon's car with the rear clip pushed in there pretty good. Really unfortunate. I'd be really excited to see. I know ifs and buts, but if Morgan Shepherd's team was able to kind of land a sponsor that gave them at least enough tires to run a full race just to see what they could do. I mean, whether it be Shepherd himself or Castle in the car, I think either way, quite honestly. I mean, certainly Castle has definitely proven himself to get great runs out of that 89 car, even where maybe the equipment isn't quite up to par with everyone else, but that car is not far off. And Castle is a really good. He's specialized certainly in qualifying underfunded equipment and getting it into the show. We talked earlier about the Las Vegas race 2009, where you had like 8 drivers not qualify. Castle cut his teeth in that same time period. And he did so driving for teams like Phoenix Racing when they didn't have a sponsor, or Larry Gunselman's team when they barely had any cars, much less sponsors. There was one time that they've, much like Joe Ruttman at Rockingham in 2004, the most recent example of a car getting parked because they didn't present a pit crew happened at Pocono in 2009. That was the Larry Gunselman's team. I believe Mike Wallace was driving it that time, not Castle. But Castle used to do like these qualifying challenges online and stuff. And that was a big part of just him staying visible and just being out there and doing the best he can. And so it's good to see that talent still get featured there in the Xfinity series. Not just what he's been doing with Morgan Shepherd's team, but also his other full race runs with JD Motorsports as well. He's maintained connections with them since running some good runs for them in the years past. Have to give a shout out as well to Gray Galding, who was fastest in the lone practice session, qualified in the 9th spot. The SS Greenlight Racing car has again been one of the great stories this year. I know they missed the playoff cut, but they have not lost any speed there. It's unfortunate they only finished 22nd in the lineup there. Again, Brandon Brown, the other great story at the back of the field, unfortunately he had that engine failure, and that put him 34th in the lineup. You look further up in the rankings, Dylan Bassett swapped into DGM Racing's car. We've seen the Bassett brothers running a number of races, including, I believe, the spring race at Richmond this year. Both Ronnie and Dylan. Good to see Dylan get a great run out of that car. I mean, the Gosselin's team has always been kind of lying in the weeds there, getting good runs here and there, even at the super speedways. But at the short track this time around, Dylan with a 13th place finish in the Bassett Gutters and Moore car. A great run for him. Joe Graff Jr., the ARCA driver, in the 14th spot. Good to see him get a good run after he DNQ'd for, I believe, his most recent attempt at Bristol, if I remember correctly. Jeremy Clements up there. All these guys breaking up the powwow among all the playoff drivers that filled the top 17 in the most of the spots in the top 17. That is. Good to see the BJ McLeod team with a lot of different sponsors, and the RSS Racing team. All 3 of their cars had sponsors, and even CJ McLaughlin in the number 38 car that's been most often a start and park entry. finishing in the 31st position there in the SciAps machine. Unfortunately, an axle problem eliminated him from the race, but definitely not in the bottom five, though, or much less a last place finish, as Yaley's been in that role there, driving for RSS Racing. Yaley himself, driving for BJ McLeod, got a 21st place finish in the bringyourbible.org Toyota for the BJ McLeod team. Other than that, Christopher Bell basically just dominated the field again, leading 238 of 250 laps. But Mike Marlar will be your feature there again. Remember him from Eldora earlier this year, where he couldn't run Marathon Oil logos on his truck when he was driving for the Rion brothers, and then responded very well with the top 5 finish. Unfortunately, his Xfinity debut didn't go quite as well as that, but it'll be a good opportunity to talk about him, and that's another advantage to writing about these, certainly. So pending the results from the disqualification results, there'll be a Sorenson article for the Cup Series, and then Marlar for the Xfinity Series. Marlar article is almost done, so we should get that in tonight, and we'll try to squeeze in the Cup Series article as well as soon as that's locked in as well. Okay, so let's cue this back. Hang on. Whoop. And so we get Pockrus's page up here again as we close in on this. We'll do trivia here in just a moment here. So thank you again for tuning in here. We're gonna, in the meantime, again, I'm gonna I got definitely some housekeeping things I gotta definitely bring up here. First and foremost, hello Shannon, welcome aboard. So yeah, I probably should have led off with this, but again, the broadcast kind of distracted me from that. Since I got the JD McDuffie book here, first of all, a big congratulations to the late great JD McDuffie, and certainly to his family on his induction, I believe on Friday, into the Augusta International Raceway Motorsports Hall of Fame. A big congratulations to the McDuffie family on that. A tremendous honor, and hopefully the first of very many there for him. I would have loved to be there for that one. Unfortunately, we pretty much used up our resources on flights there from the trip to Darlington and Most Sport earlier this year, so we weren't quite able to pencil that out this time around. But I'm very hopeful that we get some more. There's gonna be other things for JD coming up here, and I'm going to certainly aim to make as many of those as possible. I'm certainly working on another book project at the moment, but I'm never going to be done with JD McDuffie. That's certainly for sure. Much as Dr. Robert Ballard was never done with the Titanic after he went on to accomplish any other things in the oceanography field. So I just this can't wait a month. What am I seeing here? Am I missing something? Okay. Well, let me I'm sure I'll pick up on that eventually. But again, yeah, big congratulations to the McDuffie family, and big thanks also to Linda and Wendy there for providing all those pictures and video of the award ceremony. That was really cool. For those of you who haven't seen it, there's the information that's all on my Twitter feed there. I posted a link to the video on their Facebook page, as well as also other pictures and everything that they provided. Michael Juskowicz's drawing also made the cut into the program. I thought that was really cool. I didn't know they were going to do that, so that was a really cool deal. But they got all that in there, and it looked like it was a really, I mean, there was a lot of love in that room there, so that was really good to see and very touching. So big congratulations to JD, and again to the family there as well. Also, I want to make sure that I plug this as well. For those of you who haven't checked it out, definitely check out the NASCAR's Black Saturday video that was done by NASCAR Man. The latest video that he and myself worked on that we posted it this past week. That one's actually one of my favorites that I've done with him so far. The script really pulled me in when he sent it to me there, and I ended up doing another take of it to try to get the right tone there, because it was a fascinating one. Very much in the same vein as the Slap Shoes series on Airbase Speedway. Again, a track and moment that are just not talked about as much. And those are the kind of stories I think that really kind of resonate with a lot of people. And I certainly hope if you haven't seen it yet, that you definitely give it, definitely check it out. I'm going to post the link in the comments section here so you can check that out as well. Raleigh, the Raleigh Speedway. That's right, the Black Saturday one. And whoop, let's mute that so it doesn't blast out the speakers here at the same time. Doot, doot. I'm really pleased with the reception on that so far too. A lot of great comments on that, and very interesting again that it's a story that not a lot of people know about. But definitely like and share that video and share it with your friends and everything. We're always trying to get the word out. We definitely trying to help grow NASCAR Man's channel there and get some more content and hopefully work on some more videos as well. We got some other plans on that going forward. Third thing I want to bring up here as well. More than likely, I touched on this last week as well. More than likely, unfortunately, it looks like we're probably not going to be able to do Texas this year for our trackside coverage. Again, we've been really tight on the financial end here. Nothing to a dangerous degree, but certainly in terms of our discretionary income, it's been a little bit tight on that lately. I got a little bit coming in from YouTube from some of the videos that I'm working on here, but we're not really close on being able to afford airfare and stuff like that. Big thanks again though for the people following the Patreon and everything like that. That has been a huge help. And because of that, I think we should still be able to do Phoenix. Our plan is to still do the penultimate round in Phoenix. Again, nothing confirmed in terms of credentials on that end for that event there. But our plan is on that is to make it a road trip just straight from home here down to Phoenix like we did last year and just make it a long weekend on that. I think that's within our budget, so we could at least do that. Unfortunately, we also had to scrub doing Laguna Seca this weekend. I was less concerned about that because I don't really follow IndyCar that closely. I was just looking to kind of take that in since it's not too far from home here. But I was surprised how expensive the tickets were. I think it's like $100 for tickets to that, and I thought of doing credentials for it, but I probably wasn't since with work and everything. I probably was only going to be able to be there one day, and I didn't want to take up a seat in the media center if I'm only going to be there one day. So I decided not to pursue that. I probably should have though. I've really been pleased with Matt Weaver, or was it Weavers or Gluck? I know is there producer. I think, or is it both of them? I apologize if I'm attributing that wrong, but whoever's there, they're doing good coverage there, and I've been enjoying following that there. And maybe we'll do that sometime in the future. But again, the focus mostly with the website is NASCAR and to a degree even ARCA. Yeah, with oh. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Beast of Metal. I saw your comment saying my mic died. I was just making sure I wasn't just talking to myself here the last 20 minutes. Wouldn't be the first time I've done something like that. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope so. I kind of have a steer door here. I'm not seeing any other comments on here, so I'm hoping that if you can't hear me, then you are 7 of the most patient people out there, folks, that are listening in here. So okay, good. Okay, great. Excellent. So those are the big things there. So yeah, the JD ceremony, the NASCAR Man video. I also have another video that I'm kind of working on to kind of get some other stuff to work on. I got a video myself that I'm kind of working on. The new world video was not the next big video I'm planning. I'm not that one just kind of came to me. That one I watched those silly memes on YouTube there where the person just goes new like for the race video. Suddenly I was watching the Speed World clips and like, you know what, I could probably throw this together in an afternoon and let's just see how this looks. And I was pleased with how the graphics turned out there. I didn't think that was going to look very good. So once that came together, I just kind of threw that up there. But every once in a while I get something like that I just kind of throw on there. But yeah, we are working on more long videos though. Similar to like my commentary series on my channel there. I do have another script. Actually, it's right behind me here. That I'm be hopefully recording this week and getting that started. That would be a really good deal on that. But yeah, mentioning that, and then of course the plans for Phoenix coming up, and hopefully we'll have some more news on that in the coming weeks. Luckily we did that on a shoestring last year, and I think we can do that again this year, and we'll get that in. And then Texas, I'd really like to do that next year at some point. I mean, that's definitely a big venue we'd like to mark off on our list. Hopefully we'll be able to do that next spring. I think that would be a really good that'd be a really good deal. Yeah, it looks like it's probably, I'm about 80% sure, yeah, Texas isn't going to happen this year. So I apologize for that. I don't like changing the schedule and stuff on that, but of course, these things happen, and there's certainly worse things out there. So we're working on pulling some other strings around here and kind of getting stuff reorganized, and then hopefully we'll get something working on that end. So without further ado, as we are now an hour into this, where are we on that? Okay, so we're probably closing in. We're less than half an hour away from that. Let me crack open a good old Mountain Dew Code Red here. Oh, label out. My goodness, where are my things? There we go. There we go. Now, of course, I do label out, and then the mouth is back over here. Oh my goodness, I am dripping it everywhere. Okay. Oof, I'm doing that because I just came off a shift last night. I think I've slept about 2.5 hours since last night. So I am running on vapors, but we are good to go. I'm very, you probably can't tell. I've been jabbering like a madman here tonight. So I appreciate you bearing with me. Yeah, no. I'm not getting not getting it on the computer. Don't worry about that. Yeah. So I always try to make sure we get stuff going. We got a good deal on this computer actually a while back. So it's been knock wood. It's been really reliable. So, and it really helps with the video editing and everything too. I know it probably seems silly because I'm not a gamer or anything, but I guess it could do some of that too, but I can't say I've ever tried. So let's do the trivia portion of tonight's show, and we'll go ahead and get started. Let me bring this back, and we'll keep turning that this way. All right. So now let's kind of get this queued up here. Code help. Okay. I see somebody's more of a fan of the green dew or the other ones there. I think this is really good. I always like the cherry drinks. I mean, as you can tell, it's still with me, but yeah, I think it goes better. Alrighty. So we'll get started here. Let's get the next question here. And at any minute, we should be getting updates on this. Whoop. Okay. Nope, that's from Crandall there. So we don't have an update. That was a thing with Chase Elliott. Do we have one here? +8, -3. At least some post-race tech. That's right. Yeah, now we're doing that. We had that long tech. Let's see if the show goes this that long, but yeah. All righty. So let's jump into this here. Okay, first question. Has a driver ever won rookie honors in the Indianapolis 500 one day and captured the World 600 the next? Hey, here we go. Now, this is interesting. So I know it's basically a yes/no question, but if you do guess yes, try to say if there's somebody that you can pick. Yeah, exactly. Like, so you're picking Bobby Allison. Try to guess which driver it is. It might show the answer. I'm not sure offhand, but that'll be the thing there. So, yeah, anybody won the Indy 500 rookie award and then the 600 the very next day. Okay, so you have Bobby Allison. Any other guesses on that? Go ahead and jump in with your guesses on this. Excuse me, as we start our trivia segment of the show this evening. Oh, no other guesses here? We all think it's Bobby Allison? Or do you think it's not happened? But yeah. Sprite, root beer, or orange soda. You almost have the same taste that my brother does there. He likes Dr. Pepper or orange soda, pretty much. I'm not a big fan of Dr. Pepper, really. It usually doesn't quite work for me. No, it says. Wow. Okay. Never. Interesting. It didn't even try to guess. I was hoping maybe if it said no, it would say somebody came close, but I guess that's there's not enough memory on this car to get that. Okay, next question. What track did Ricky Rudd win in 1993? Okay, that's right. This one has those questions. What track did Ricky Rudd win in 1993? Don't wait to make your guesses. Go ahead and jump right in. We have one vote from Michigan. Do we have any other votes here? What track did Ricky Rudd win in 1993? We have another vote from Michigan. Any other guesses here? I think you guys are right. Yep, Michigan, indeed. Alrighty. Name one of the 4 drivers who have appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated. One of the 4 drivers who have appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated as of 1998, as of with this car here. So one of the 4, if you can name anyone. There's Bill Elliott. Okay. Any other guesses as to any one of the 4? Jeff Gordon. Okay. It should probably show the list here on the answer here, so it'll be interesting to get all 4. Any other guesses here? I think it's just you 2 here, so we'll do that. I know we're running really late. Oh gosh, it's like midnight East Coast. Yeah, we got another long show here going. All right, Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty, and Jeff Gordon. Yeah, pretty good guesses here. Okay, here comes the answer. Curtis Turner, Cale Yarborough, and Bill Elliott, and Jeff Gordon. Wow, Curtis Turner, Cale Yarborough, Bill Elliott, and Jeff Gordon, as of 1998, were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Now, I assume maybe that's like their own special issue versus like a NASCAR review one. Because I remember in 98, they had like this season in review thing and had Gordon and Mark Martin on the cover. And I don't know how many years they did that before. I can't imagine too many before. But yeah, okay, Curtis Turner. I got to see that, like the cover that had Curtis Turner on it. That would be interesting to see. Yeah, Sports Illustrated been around that long. Yeah, I guess it's like National Geographic, just been around for almost a century. But yeah, Curtis Turner, Cale Yarborough, Bill Elliott, and Jeff Gordon. So no Richard Petty and no Dale Earnhardt, at least as of 98. Okay. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1994? How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1994? First year that he drove for his own team, car number 10 here. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1994? Okay, we got 3 votes now. Okay, there we go. We have all votes for 1, and they are correct. 1 race. Who is the all-time winningest crew chief? Period. Okay, or question mark. Excuse me. Who is the all-time winningest crew chief? The all-time winningest. Dale Inman? Any other guesses? All-time winningest crew chief in NASCAR history. I would presume the Cup Series, but we will find out. Dale Inman. Any other guesses on that? All right. Yes, you are correct. Dale Inman. Yeah. With 193 wins. It was very careful to point that out. 193. So not all of Richard Petty's wins. And but 193 total. All right, here we go. Who built the engines to give Sterling Marlin 2 Daytona 500 victories? Who built the engines that gave Sterling Marlin his 2 Daytona 500 victories in consecutive years? Runt Pittman? Any other guesses on that? You guys are too good. You're getting these like right away. I don't know if this thing's, see, we'll probably get some tricky questions because this is again the one that does like the thing that trips us up. I have the other one here if we reach the end of the rainbow on this, but we're still plugging away. I guess by the time we get up to 1998's Ricky Rudd stats, I guess that would be it. The answer is Runt Pittman. Yes, correct. So you got it, bad booking. All right. Let's see if we get some harder ones here. Does weather affect track conditions? Oh, that's it. Okay. Does weather affect track conditions? Yes, there we go. I think that's pretty fair to say. Yeah. Come on, let's get a harder one. Let's get that. All right, here we go. What is the only year Petty Enterprises did not enter a Dover race. Oh, wow. Thank you. Ask and ye shall receive. What is the only year Petty Enterprises did not enter a Dover race? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The only year. Now, you saw it during the race today. At least they played it over here on the West Coast. The promotions for the 50th anniversary of Dover. So definitely something very part of it there. I like it. Yeah. Which driver out of Southwest Virginia has most Cup Series wins out there? And we can laugh when it turns out Ricky Rudd is not the answer. That'd be great. Then this thing's trolling you at that point. 1965, 1984. The answer is 1985. 1985. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm almost questioning the accuracy of that because I almost thought you were right there, bad booking. Because I mean, he drove for Mike Curb in '84. Um, did he still run it in '85? I can't imagine that. I mean, it says Petty Enterprises didn't enter a car at Dover, and it says 1985. Really bizarre. That's gonna make me look it up. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. Let me look up here. Let me look up the 84 Dover results here. So yeah, Petty won his 199th. Yeah, it's listed under Mike Curb. So it should be under. Let me do this. Let me do it the other direction. Yeah. Why did it say 1985? 1985. Where is he? Yeah, 1985 it shows under Mike Curb also. I almost thought it was just the 1 year in '84 just to make sure he got to 200 wins, and then after that, it went back to Petty. My memory of that is a bit hazier than I thought. Let me look here. Charlotte. Okay, Petty Enterprises. Let's pull up their Dover statistics. Alrighty. Dover. Incidentally, 105 Dover starts for Petty Enterprises. Through I would assume through 2009. Obviously, a different ownership nowadays. Through 2008. That's right. Let me look. So 83, 84. Okay. Okay, here we go, folks. So here's the tricky question. This is the tricky part. Here's where the trick comes in. I haven't checked the comments here. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Bad booking, you got it. Exactly. Yeah, the Petty Enterprises fielded Kyle Petty's car in 1984. That's actually something I need to correct for another thing I'm working on because I thought that was the Wood Brothers. But no, okay. So that's why. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so the Mike Curb thing extended for those couple of years, but Kyle in '85 wasn't driving the number 7 under Petty Enterprises anymore. In fact, okay, now he was driving. Wow, that's a tricky one. That is a tricky one. Okay, that's when it went to the Wood Brothers. Okay. Was it still 7-Eleven sponsoring him in '84, or was that a different deal? '84. Yeah, okay, it was still 7-Eleven. So it didn't start with them. It started with the Petties. Okay. Wow, actually goes back further than I thought. 83, 82. The STP. Yeah, okay, 83, 84. Interesting. Okay. Right on. The 85 Dover races. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, right on. Always like to learn something new. Whoop, we might have a notification here. Let me just check. Do we have a call yet? Oh, okay. Bachers tweeted this 3 minutes ago. NASCAR hasn't announced anything official, but it appears the Eric Jones 4th place finish is in jeopardy. So there's a picture We'll pull it up on the big screen here. There's a picture of the number 20 car in the inspection queue. And I guess the crew is, if you can see it very good on the camera there, is the crew still looking over the car now. So it's possible, again, nothing confirmed yet, but maybe something happening with the 20 car, which would be unfortunate. They had such a great run going through that race there and trying to get some momentum back their way. But we'll see if we'll see what happens. That's the most recent tweet we have on Pocris's page. Okay. Yeah, that could be interesting. That could be interesting. Here, you don't need Kyle Busch on a loop here from this. There we go. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Oh, okay. And we are at the 90-minute mark too. So any minute now, we should be getting. Yeah, exactly. For all we know, it could affect more than one car in Gibbs. It could. It could be interesting. Is this thing moving lower? I can't tell. I keep adjusting this thing. All right. Next question in the meantime. We should be expecting results any minute now. But yeah, we could be getting some very big news. And if it's Jones, well, is it going to be a Jones article? I mean, it's almost a year since, well, it's more than a year now, actually, than he finished last at Vegas. But we'll see. Okay. What track has a race nicknamed, quote, the Great American Race? Oh gosh. Okay, we're back to the easy ones again. Okay, what track has a race known as the Great American Race? Daytona. There you go. Daytona indeed. Okay. Let's move right along here. Okay. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1995? How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1995? We have a guess of one. Those of you long-term members of viewers of the show know that that's it's unfortunate it has these questions staggered in there. I know it has to have Ricky Rudd questions in there, but in Rudd's particular career, the number of wins he had is doesn't vary too much through the rest of his career. The answer is one. There we go. Okay. All right, next one. A fuel cell becomes obsolete after how many years after manufacturer date? All right. A fuel cell becomes out of date after how many years past its manufacture date as of 1998? How many years? Just go ahead and jump your guesses in the chat. Don't try to look it up. 3, we have 5, we have another 3 there. Any other guesses? How many years past its manufacture date is a fuel cell obsolete? All right, here we go. We're gonna get the answer. 5 years. 5 years. Bad booking. You had a guess on that one? You nailed it. Interesting. At least as of 1998. All right. Who was the last driver to win a national championship without a super speedway victory? So as of 1998, who was the last driver to win a national championship without a super speedway victory? Now, that's making me wonder, is that just Cup or is that Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks? Pretty much every question on this has been Cup, so I would guess that. Without a super speedway victory. Yeah, Kawicki in 92. David Green in 94. Yeah, exactly. Because it's Xfinity. I think it's probably going to be just Cup. I would think it's probably going to be Cup. I could be wrong. I don't know what this thing's thinking. So we're gonna get the answer here. We got guesses for Kawicki or David Green. Oh, Utter says Jones disqualification's official. Uh-oh. Do we have a call? Does Bob concur with Utter's report? And is that the end of it? Because they got to check the rest of the playoff contenders, don't they? Oh, whoop! I saw something pop up there. I saw something pop up. Hold up. Oh, by the way, the answer to that question: Terry Labonte in 1984. Terry Labonte, so not Quickie. I guess it counted Pocono as a super speedway, which is kind of a misnomer, but yeah, Terry Labonte in 1984. That's surprising. I guess he won what, Riverside that year? I gotta remember look that up too. But here, hang on. We're juggling a couple things. They are finishing up on the 19 car right now. This was posted 3 minutes ago. Okay, Joe Gibbs said he didn't have specifics about the 20 car. Posted 3 minutes ago from Pockrass. So okay, still waiting. Are we going to have a disqualification in Richmond? It looks like it very well may be the case. See if we get any other calls here in the meantime. So hopefully we get the call on the 19 here pretty soon. Very surprising about the Terry Labonte stat, though. Let me get that pulled up. Yeah, it says Terry Labonte. It does not say Kowicki. It said Terry Labonte in 1984. Oh, I didn't misspell that. Corpus Christi. Let's look up his statistics. In 1984, he won 2 races, and those were at Bristol and Riverside. So there you go. Bristol and Riverside in 1984 carried Terry Labonte to the championship with Dale Inman as crew chief. So there you go. Another piggyback onto the Dale Inman statistic. Yeah, Pocono is 2.5 miles long, so it's like it's one of those things. I think was it Weaver that posted earlier where he was still calling Richmond a speedway or super speedway or something. Like I don't know. Whoop. Anything here? Okay. All right. Now go figure. We have had multiple disqualifications this year in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. We have not had one live call on the Cup Series one all year long. Is this going to be the one here? I mean, it could be. It could be. Things not looking good. I might make that the picture. I might make Pockrass's picture the picture there for the article if that ends up being the case. If Utter's saying it, I think that's a pretty good indication. But we'll see. All right. Whoop, here. I don't need to make that entirely distracting with that on the loop there. Kyle Busch just being Kyle Busch. Jimmy Maycar confirmed the disqualification. Okay, that's pretty high up. That sounds pretty much like a call to me. Chris Gale. Okay. Yep. All right. Now it's really spreading. Okay. Well, Parker should have it on here any moment. So it looks like we have a call, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like we have a call. It's just a matter of the parameters of it. I don't know if he's waiting on the 19 at the same time. Maybe that's the reason he's not called it yet himself on his channel. Refreshing the page here. Lane got a quote from Gale himself. Yeah, I'm going to take that to the bank. There it is. Yep. 13 seconds ago on Pockrass's page. Jimmy Maycar said the 20 car failed rear toe. Doesn't anticipate an appeal. Jones will get 1 point for the race. So Jones, we have a call, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Jones has been disqualified from the Federated Auto Parts 400 after a good finish there, right up there. The top 4 sweep of the Joe Gibbs Racing team is no more now, apparently. He is now going to be classified last behind Reed Sorenson, saving Sorenson from his first last place finish from the since Watkins Glen earlier this year, the number 77 car. Thought DQs get no points. What did that change? No, I think they get last place points. Is that correct? Am I mistaken on that? I'll certainly correct myself if they got that. Yeah, last place points and money because they get classified at the back of the field. Ah, man, that's gotta sting. That's gotta sting. I mean, again, shades of what happened with Colleague Racing back at Daytona earlier this year. So you had Colleague Racing sweeping the top 3 spots, and then what happens? AJ Allmendinger gets that penalty, and then he suddenly is dropped right out of it. Rough deal with that. Um, but man, oh man, that's gotta sting for Jones. Because he had the crash at Indianapolis. Um, man. Okay. Well, that's balls and strikes. So it looks like that's gonna be your feature for tonight. We'll find out if there's anything more on that. Still waiting for the call on Truex, or if they're gonna call everybody else here at the same time. Rear toe. My goodness. Isn't that the same issue that happened to Hamlin at Darlington a couple of years ago? I mean, there wasn't disqualification back then, of course, but um thing where he was doing his victory donuts and then he backed it into the wall for as part of it there to kind of knock the toe into alignment again. Or at least that's what the discussion was at the time. Here, we'll go ahead and retweet that on the page. So I'm sure we're no doubt getting any other posts on that. Goodness. So okay, as the rest of the dust settles on this, let me pull up some more statistics on that. We'll take a breather from this here at the moment. So it was originally going to be Reed Sorenson's 18th last place finish, and again his second of the year, which was going to put him on the doorstep of challenging Michael McDowell for the current lead in the 2019 NASCAR Cup Series championship. As a result, this will instead change, and it will be Jones's first last place finish since the Coca-Cola 600 earlier this year, where he had a crash in that one after 22 laps and was eliminated in that one. Jones also finished last at Las Vegas just over a year ago in the September race when he won the pole. Let's pull up some other stats here. Do. Now, this is again presuming that no other drivers get disqualified and that he's the lowest classified of those who do get. That's still up in the air. How much longer are we going to wait on that? I'm not sure. But we'll wrap this up probably in a bit because I know it's pretty late for you guys on the East Coast. Although it is a Saturday. Let's see. Is it a Saturday? Yeah, that's right. Tomorrow's Sunday. So good deal. Let me get this queued up here and get you a couple statistics. Of course, we'll write this into this. Luckily, I just wrote the statistic paragraph in the Reed Sorenson article, so everything else will be able to be retooled pretty easily. Number 20. Looking at look at the number statistics here for you. Gosh, yeah, that's always the thing I forgot. 20 car has like 4 last place finishes in the last what was it? The last 15 Daytona 500s. It's ridiculous. 2 with Tony Stewart, 1 with Logano, and 1 with Kenseth. And then Eric Jones was last in the Busch Clash this year. So it's a number that's had some issues on that end of the field. Let me get, as it finished last at Richmond, though. Let me get that statistic for you. And the answer is yes. Okay, here we go. Here's your last place statistic. If assuming, of course, Jones is the only driver disqualified, and that the results are going to reflect that by itself. The number 20 car has 2 last place finishes at Richmond. The first one was by Clyde Lynn on September 10th, 1967. He was driving a 1966 Ford that was eliminated after 10 laps with a crash. The other one was the most recent one, February 23rd, 1975. That was by Rick Newsom, who had a 1973 Ford lose an engine after 5 laps. I don't believe there's been a disqualification in the history of Richmond, at least on the Cup Series side. I'll check that next. Let me get this pulled up here in the meantime. Since, I'm just going to copy that statistic down while I have it pulled up here. February. Five laps. Yeah, it makes you wonder if NASCAR gets more critical about technical inspection results when you have a sweep by one team. It's like, oh, the first time. I mean, is this like the Triple Crown where like nobody's ever going to be able to have a 3 or 4 car team sweep the top of the field anymore because one of them is always going to get disqualified or scrutinized a lot closer than the others? I don't know. I mean, don't want to put the tinfoil hat on quite that easily, but maybe. You never know. You never know. That's right, disqualifications. Let me pull up that next. And we'll get that pulled up. Letter E. And then that one is F. Okay, not there. Looks like no disqualifications, at least on the Cup Series side. In a Cup Series race. This is my original idea for the show, by the way. I was originally going to just have like the camera running in the background where I was writing the articles, but I figured that for a while you probably I didn't want to forget that the camera was running for any reason. Like I get a phone call or something like that, or I'm scratching my nose or something. Of course, I do that already, I guess. So there's that. Okay, but you don't need to hear clickety clack the whole time here. A call has been made. Truex has passed inspection. Do we have that on Pockrace's page here too? I should have like a term and connectors search that just pulls it up the most recent time it comes out. Of course, I've had to block a couple of channels because there's a couple of these channels that do like fake news and try to like, I mean, not to, that term has been overused, but literally like parody sites that like, put this other fake stuff up there. I mean, I get, it's funny and everything and it's fun and all that, but for what I do, I can't have that on my feed. So I just block those. NASCAR officially announces that Jones has been disqualified. Team says it was a rear toe. Rest of the cars were clear. Truex wins 2 minutes ago posted. We'll send updated standings once I get them. Stage finishes change in addition to race finishes, but Jones now pretty much faces a must win at the Charlotte Road Course. Okay, well, there you go. So the rest of the playoff contenders have passed, including Martin Truex Jr. So Joe Gibbs Racing gets to bookend the field instead of sweeping the top 4. And while you have Martin Truex Jr. in victory lane, Eric Jones is now going to be relegated to a spot even below Kurt Busch in the rankings now, where he has to win at the Roval next week. And with a race that's that unpredictable, where all the way down to the last corner, Jimmy Johnson was eliminated, where a spin by Jeffrey Earnhardt ended up being decisive into Kyle Larson making the cut or not. Boy, that is going to be very close. So will be very exciting. We'll be back at the other location for the disqualification show next week. And I think we're going to go ahead and call it from here because it's I know it's already 12:30 back on the East Coast there. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I'm gonna let you all get some rest there. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get a Eric Jones article this week, and we have our first ever call live on the show here. I hope you've enjoyed that. Unfortunate for Eric Jones and his playoff chances, but of course that's always the risk that can happen on this end of the field. But it took all the way till middle of September for us to have our first disqualification call. And now that's the deal there at the back of the field. So it will not be a Reed Sorenson article, and it will instead be an Eric Jones article, and we'll have that up later tonight. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me bend your ear about broadcasts and everything else that was happening in the Cup and Xfinity Series race here at the same time. Check out my Twitter at Last Car on Brock. The website is lastcar.info, and the Patreon is, of course, patreon.com/lastcar on Brock for more bonus content. Check out NASCAR Man's video. Posted the link earlier in the chat there. And stay tuned for more bonus content coming up here. And in the meantime, I'll see you next week because I think we're all ready to roval after this whole deal here. and we'll find out if there's a disqualification there or not. That's going to be decisive in the first cutoff round for the Cup Series championship. And if not, we're going to move on down the line and find out what happens in the road course finale for 2019. So I'll see you guys next week, and thanks again for tuning in.